Hello! Today I'm going to help you make a wonderful little face mask. We are going to make a great face mask out of minimal supplies that hopefully you have at home. And this is going to be for people with little to no sewing experience. So I'm going to show you that anyone can make a great face mask. So let's get started. To get started, you only need 3 pieces of fabric to make this mask. You need 1 piece that's 7 by 14. You need 2 pieces that are 2 by 36 inches long. Now, if you have some store-bought pre-made bias tape that's 36 inches long, you will not need to cut these 2 strips. Bias tape is about $2.50 per package, and you will get 3 strips out of 1 package. So it is much more economical if you just make your own, but it is much faster if you have some store-bought bias tape. Also, I am not cutting these on the bias. Fabric, you'll want to pre-wash any fabric that you use, and you'll want to find the tightest woven fabric you can find. So if you want to know what tightly woven means, it means when you hold it up to the light, you want to not be able to see through it. However, in times that we are right now, we're just doing the best with what we have fabric-wise. I was able to make 7 masks out of one of my husband's button-down shirts, and this fabric actually worked wonderfully well. So the pattern that I'm using came from a surgical mask from the hospital. I just followed its measurements and came up with my own little system here. I had made masks earlier that I got from off the internet, some tutorials, and they just seemed too wide and too long. So that's where I got that pattern. And then if you want to put a nose piece in, a nose clip, then you'll need like some wire for either pipe cleaners, or you can use twist ties, also work nicely. So let's go ahead and we're going to start on our first step. To make your bias tape, if you have any starch, it will make this job much easier. You can tell by how sticky my ironing board, we've been using a lot of starch. So all you want to do is fold your fabric in half. You want to make sure that your steam is turned off because it can burn your fingers as you get close to it. And you're just going to go all the way down like that. Again, it's pretty sticky. This weekend, I had my teenagers doing this job. They each were in charge of making 8 of these strips. So after you have the first line, you just fold it again so the edge goes right to the center crease. And you just go all the way down. Like so. And then we'll flip it around and do the same thing to the other side. This does not have to be perfect. And then lastly, you'll fold it in half to complete your string, or tie, I should say. All right, next what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 zigzags on our 14 by 11 piece. All right, so we'll go over here and just put your machine on a zigzag stitch I didn't even change my thread and left this lime green thread in. And I think actually it will look really cute. I like contrasting threads. Okay, so now we're gonna put right sides together all the way up to the top, just like that. And from here, you do not need to measure this, but I kind of do. You're gonna go 1.5 inches from the edge and mark it with a pin. And you're gonna do the same on the other side, 1.5 inches. Again, this does not have to be precise. And then you're going to use a straight stitch, and you're going to just stitch from the edge to the pin, and then you'll reverse for 5 stitches and go back 5 stitches. And we'll do the same here. We'll start at this pin, we'll go 5 stitches, back 5 stitches, and go to the edge. You can either cut your thread or just bring it over to the other pin like that. You don't need to trim your tails right now on the edge because we'll trim them all at once later. So this right here is going to make our filter pocket. If you do not want to make a filter pocket, as some medical personnel won't need to put a filter in, you can just stitch this all the way across. But if you are making a filter pocket, let me show you how. You're going to bring it to the middle, and you're just going to open up that seam like this. And we're going to press that open. This is the trickiest part of the whole mask. So if it gets frustrating to you or looks frustrating, just skip this next step. But what I'm going to do is turn it inside out, and I'm going to top stitch right where that little extra fabric is. So I'm going to go around. It can make a fully functional mask without top stitching it, but I'm going to do it anyway. So you just bring it right here on the inside and bury your needle, and you're just going to go straight down one side. This is the trickiest part, if you can just get through to the other side. And you'll bury the needle and just pivot, go to the other side, and now this part gets easier. And you go straight to the other side. Okay. After this, you'll want to bring that stitch up to about 1/2 inch from the very top. Does not have to be precise at all. And now we're just going to top stitch all the way around. It does not matter what corner you start with. We're going to go all the way around our little square. Just bury your needle and pivot at each corner. I don't want it that crooked here. and you don't need to back tack at that last part. So at this point, let's go ahead and trim those tails and clean it up a little bit. But like I said, the trickiest part is done. So let's go over to the ironing board and I'll show you our next step. So if you want to add a little bit more starch right now and get that kind of moist, it will make the next step easier. And what you'll do to make the pleats, all you do is bring it up and fold it over. There is no wrong size pleats. At first I was trying to measure them and trying to make it perfect, and I just think that step is unnecessary and was more time consuming. So you just are going to add 3 pleats in. And our last pleat, you want to make sure that this last pleat does not cover our opening, our filter opening, but maybe goes right underneath it. And then you'll give it a couple of good shots of steam. Okay, now it's just time to attach our ties, and we're almost finished. So I've been making so many of these masks that I actually marked on my ironing board 2 marks that are 18 inches apart. And the reason being is that in the surgical mask that I'm using as my pattern, the top of it where the nose wire goes, this tie needs to be 18 inches long. It's longer than the bottom one because this goes around the neck, which is shorter. So I put that there, and you can just, again, this does not have to be perfect. If you have Wonder Clips, they are remarkable and make things so easy. If you don't, no worries, you can just pin it. Now let me back up. If you don't have this, a good crease that's going to hold, you will need to take this over to the machine and just stay stitch it right along both edges. But this is just fine. I'm going to scoot it right in that little tie and fold it over nicely. You can see this is why we wanted all the threads to be cut, because we don't want any of them hanging out. And I'm going to show you what to do. If you don't have Wonder Clips, just put in a pin or 2. Probably just put 1 in, but I'll put 2. Then we'll go over to the machine, and all we have to do is sew down here, and oh no, we do need to put the nose wire in, and then we'll be done. Okay. Beginning at our open side of our tie, we're gonna just press this down, or we're gonna stitch it down, I should say. So just take it to the edge of your presser foot, and then I brought my needle pretty close over to that edge. You can back tack if you like, but not necessary. To finish the edges of these, at the beginning I was folding it over once and folding it over twice and stitching across. And then I got lazier and was just folding it over one way. And sewing across. And then I got even lazier, and now I'll either zigzag the edge or just go a couple times with a straight stitch right across, just so it won't fray. And then I just have trimmed those off. Okay, you'll turn it around and you'll do the same thing on the other side. All right, as is, this is a fully functional mask. Right now, if you don't want to put the nose wire in, don't worry about it. It can be done at this point. If you do want to put a nose wire in, you can use a couple of these twist ties. I've been using 2 or 3 because they're pretty thin. And all I would do is slip it under here. And I do try to center it a little bit. It's not so important when you do the twist ties because it's not very thick. When you put a pipe cleaner in, it does show more if it's not centered. So about there, I'm not very precise. So right now what we'll do is we'll start here and we'll go and then we'll back tack. We'll go here and pivot. And we'll stitch across, just encasing that wire. We'll come to the other edge. Make sure you don't go over your wire. I've done it. It won't ruin your machine, but it does kind of scare you. And then we'll go up to the top, back tack, and we will be done. Bury your needle, pivot. Now you can go right on that same stitch that we just stitched, or you can choose to bring your stitch closer to the wire. It makes no difference. And then go up. All right, at this point, you are done. Congratulations on making one of the cutest little face masks. You have your filter pocket right here. If you don't have a filter, I just was putting a couple pieces of extra fabric through there. I don't know how effective it is, but and then also you have your wire piece right here. And thank you so much for joining me.